Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Andreas as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. This is from an act named Mono titled Cyclone from their The Last Dawn album, and we're going to listen through it from start to finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. What have we got in store? Beautiful with the strings on either side of the guitars. Lush reverb tails. It's great use of space to have the drums just come in now. And with the relative minimalism of the bass, I mean, it's kind of like the antithesis of a cyclone, isn't it? It's like we're in the calm of the storm. With how gentle and wispy everything is. Great use of delay here, messing with the rate of it. I mean, it's just tremendous having the tremolo impact, the tremolando on those leads. The occasional bits of grit with the distortion or the overdrive there, filling up. And how it comes around the sides, and how powerful that is. Tremendously peaceful, really. I like how non-aggressive the drums are as well. Like, they're never trying to sort of be too much in front of the mix. Coming down with a dynamic range. Good job. What a banger of a track. Is it triplets or 6/8? 1 and 2 and 3 and... Feels like we got like polymeter going on or something like that. A polyrhythm. And little tingles on top. Is that a xylophone or something like that? What is that instrument? It's like it's a mallet percussion of some kind, I think. Kind of reminds me of a music box, to be honest. With the wind is Foley, the oscillation of the guitars backwards and forwards like the wind's blowing past. Although I don't think that's Foley, I legitimately think that's manipulation of the delay and reverb tails and some of those guitar parts to switch out onto the sides and kind of get a kind of sort of loopy kind of reverb thing. But we're going to talk about that more in the conclusion. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Mono titled Cyclone off of the Last Door album. Or Last Dawn album, should I say. Now, what do I think this track is about? I suppose if I take it at face value, I do think it's about a cyclone. Does it represent a cyclone to me with the way it's been written and performed? Kind of. It doesn't come from a lyrical perspective because this is an instrumental piece, but I do not think at the same time that we needed lyrics in order to make sense of this piece. I think this track is an excellent example of what can be done with instruments to tell a story that doesn't need to be spoon-fed to you by a front person. Mono are an exceptional act. I believe I have reviewed a bit of their material before, and it's nice to be able to hear more of their stuff again. Thanks to Andreas for that. It's great to have a situation here where, again, we don't have vocals, but it's just so strong. And I don't actually think that vocals would have necessarily even benefited or improved the experience here. There is so much done with the guitars, you know, the bass, the drums, and the little sort of like music boxy kind of mallet percussion there that I don't think you needed anything else. The track at 6 minutes 24 was through composed. We had different movements. We had a 4-chord progression of bass line I think that we wanted to stick with the entire time. But we did switch between, there were 2 or 3 different ideas just to kind of go for an A to B or even like a C section later. But I think that with a track this long as 6:24, which is outside a 2-4 minute sweet spot, you kind of need to have more than one main idea, you know, melodically or harmonically in order to keep it moving, even if you have various different representations of that. It's very rare that you can get away with that, having a longer form factor without having enough change within the way that the musical concepts are presented. I think if I talk about a few of my favorite instruments from this track, I especially liked the guitar parts. I think the guitar arpeggios that we had at the beginning, melding into the lead parts, which were initially kind of reverb laden, but then, because they appeared on either side, one left and then the right. Then we had like the tremolo picking as well, which I think was helped a little bit by the delay, as well as the reverb that was existing on most of these ones. Kind of a very icy, cold kind of reverb, which I think helped with the oral aesthetic of a cyclone. And gently, I think that if I was to say anything about this track, it was legitimately that the guitars were the star of the show. I believe that the way that we layered again those arpeggiated rhythm parts with the strings, with the center tour de force of the wind piercing and pulsating around the stereo field, as well as within the center, with the looping and the sub layers going on the sides near the end that I thought was wind foley, was actually sort of like looped modulated guitar parts. We had the entire track here. The bass that we had in the lower register, a little bit in, helped fill in those root notes really elegantly, and it was slower and then it got a little bit quicker, but never too much. It was never too much with the bass guitar. It was very well balanced, and it was a joy to listen to, despite the fact that the motif itself was almost melancholic. We were very minimalist with the approach to our bass guitar. To a certain extent, I think the same with the drums. The drums weren't overplayed. We had a focus on the cymbals as well as the kicks and snares and stuff like that. We didn't color too much with the percussion, I think, to allow for a sense of space within the arrangement. When the drums came in, they offered a sort of rhythmic variation to it. We did have different drum grooves throughout, although there wasn't like a massive variety of different drum grooves. It was enough just to allow for, oh, this is this section. Oh, this is another section, right? But what I appreciate about the drums and how they were done is simply that we had a song where we kind of had the guitars as the main focal point of the mix, and the drums kind of treated it like they would a vocalist or something like that. There was a sense you use it occasionally, and I think when the drums weren't there, they were equally as meaningful, if that makes any sense. But what really helped to, I think, flesh this track out was when those little bell things came in. I don't know if they were literal bells or like a mallet percussion. We go doon, ding, 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 doon, or a xylophone or something like that. But whatever it was just a really nice touch in the mid to high ranges. Even when you had the lead guitars, they weren't too bright or shrill. They had been filtered and EQ'd well in post-production. I just think the natural tone of them as well wasn't too sort of like shrill or anything like that. It was meant to sort of sound more in the resonant and like the mid ranges there to cope well with the bass, and then the arpeggiated parts in the sides, so that when the little kind of ding, the little tings come in, they sounded huge because they had room to breathe in the arrangement as well as in the mix. The melody there was very simple for those as well. But this is one of those tracks where it's the culmination of everything and how it comes together that truly makes it spectacular. So I don't mind if there's no sort of crazy technical performances or anything like that within a track, as long as the total combined amount of it is an absolute wonder to sit through. And I think this track was really well ornamented. It had a great sense of flair and style, and the various ingredients niched well together. The total amount of this track resulted in a motif where it was almost like we were sad with the minor orientations, the kind of sense of loss and almost gloom to it. We had a sense of loss because of the cyclone, but it wasn't as abrasive or aggressive as you would expect the cyclone to be. So I'm thinking that maybe it's the result of things that happened after the cyclone hit or something like that. Or maybe the cyclone is like inside your head and things are whirling around and stuff like that, and it's metaphorical or figurative for something. Either way, I think the fact that it allows an open door for you to wonder about those things is tremendous. It's a open encouragement to people to go, hey, you know what? I really would like to sort of like not just, again, be spoon-fed the meaning of something. I like there to be nuance there and mystery. And this track offers that in spades. Not even particularly compositionally complex. It's not like, again, we had like crazy technical sections or anything like that. We typically stayed within traditional major and minor scale shapes and stuff like that. And if we had rhythms, they never, when we had sort of a sense of polyrhythm, polymeter or something like that, but between two instruments as far as I remember, but doesn't mean it's a lesser experience. I think it's actually damn near flawless in the way it was executed. And with the performance, there was not a note out of place. It was incredibly tight. It showcases the 15 years that this band had together at that point, that they released this in 2014, this album, The Last Dawn. But the studio recording, mixing and mastering was absolutely spectacular. 2014 was a few years after the loudness war kind of ended, and I'm thankful for that because it was just nice to have dynamic range to a mix. Things were not the same loudness. The guitars, bass, drums, and little bell things, they were niched and leveled well, and they were nicely sort of like tucked into where they needed to be in the frequency spectrum, and it was nice and wide around the stereo field, and it was also nice and loud. Again, I don't think there was a lack of an ingredient here like the vocals or anything like that. The instrumental, it stood well on its own without that. It was more than enough. And ultimately, I think the fact that we had, again, the reverb delay tails and the bits of sound design with like the floaty kind of guitars and in the back, as well as the sub-layering there, I just think it was absolutely masterful and actually show not only of their instrumental and compositional prowess, but also the understanding of what it takes to make a great single or a great track. And again, the studio side of things. But ultimately, I'm really stoked with this track, Cyclone from Mono. And hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching my review. If you did enjoy this track, please do go check out Mono's various social medias and Spotify page and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either hell more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Patrons video. Spiderhands out.